Hello, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Sada, and I'm back to read you some more Appleblossom the Possum with my good friend Appleblossom. I wanted to just read you a little snippet from chapter 11, the last chapter we read, because I think it's really kind of an interesting way to think about where we're headed in our story. So when she first returns from her adventure and her brothers are so worried about her, Antonio said, "What happened? You didn't come back." And this is what Appleblossom says. "It was horrible and scary and also incredible and amazing. Is that possible?" And Antonio looks at her and he kind of smiles and he says, "If you say so, then it is." I think that that's a really interesting thing for Appleblossom to say, because we're moving into this time where they're going through all of these changes and they're going off on adventures and they're experiencing things that are probably really scary. But yet, Appleblossom saying it was also amazing. She's not really sure how to feel. So as we go into chapter 12, I think we're going to see lots of changes starting to really kind of speed up for the possums as they have to grow up and go out into the world. So let's jump right into chapter 12 and see how the journey continues. Okay, chapter 12. Atticus, Alan, and Alyssa, and Alberta, and Ajax, and Abdul haven't been seen for 4 nights. Then Augusta and Alejandro don't come back after Alfonso disappears, and Mama has not been spotted by anyone, even once. The only reason they know that something awful hasn't happened to her is that twice when they returned at the end of the night, there's a piece of bruised fruit underneath the mulberry bushes, and both times it is tied with a bow made out of a strand of spaghetti, which we know Mama did that for her family members. So that was a clue, huh? 2 days later, when the full moon begins to roll up the sky to let the sun peek over the hills, only Antonio and Amlet and Appleblossom wait in the meeting place under the mulberry hedge. Appleblossom's forehead scrunches up and her eyes get cloudy as they fill with tears. "It's just the 3 of us now." Amlet slips his head out of the leaves to look out into the grass, which he knows is dangerous in the low light. He doesn't see anyone coming. What do you think happened to everybody? He chews on a scrap of sticky stuff that he found flattened on the cement, and then answers his own question. "They moved on. That's what's happened." Appleblossom's whole body tenses. "But I don't understand why. We're family." Antonio's voice is sad. "We can't keep coming back to this mulberry hedge. Animals can smell us." "Amlet, you're right. The others have moved on, and we're making a mistake by not following them." Amlet suddenly gets stubborn. "Well, what if I don't want to move on? What if I want to ride on Mama's back? What if I want to work on my performances? What if I want us to put on a show?" Appleblossom looks at Amlet and tries her best to sound hopeful. "Just the 3 of us could run through the acting exercises. We could still workshop a scene." Amlet's voice is but a whisper. "I'm not acting right now. My sadness is real." Antonio scratches an itch spot on top of his head. Appleblossom knows he does this when he's thinking hard. Finally, he says, "We have to accept that it is just us now, and who knows how long that will even last." Appleblossom answers, "Forever." "That's how long. You 2 are my brothers forever." Antonio sighs, "But we are solitary animals. That's how it works." Appleblossom looks down at her hands as if something important is happening there. Finally, she stops staring at her thumbs and asks, "Says who?" "We don't have to be solitary if we don't want to be solitary." Amlet looks at Antonio. "Can you explain what solitary is again?" Antonio is, as always, patient. "It means just one. It means solo." Appleblossom's eyes fill with liquid. "I don't see why we can't be solo together." Antonio doesn't have an answer. Hamlet chimes in. Why can't we meet up at the end of every night? What's the harm in that? We can look for food on our own, then come back here when we're all done. Antonio takes a long time to answer. We can for now. Hamlet and Appleblossom both let out sighs of relief. But we need to be extra careful. 3 of us together means it's more difficult to find safe places to sleep, and we're getting bigger all the time. We can't just rely on what has worked before. Appleblossom looks at her brothers. It's true that they are all growing fast. Their bellies are large and their tails are now so long. But instead of pointing this out, she says, Of course, Antonio, we don't need to sleep in that old umbrella. We'll find a new place. Hamlet nods in agreement. Whatever you say, Antonio, that's how we'll do it. 3 possums waste no time. They find a drain pipe that looks dry and they crawl inside as Antonio leads the way. But a brown snake has already claimed the spot, and the reptile makes an awful face. He sticks his purple tongue out and hisses in their direction. No vacancy! He gets his message across. The possums scurry and take refuge inside an old tire that has been abandoned under the ivy on the hillside. They huddle next to one another in a cozy ball. The sun is cracking the horizon when Appleblossom whispers to her brothers. There was room for all of us in the drain pipe, even with the snake there. But if you're not wanted, there's no amount of space that will make a difference. And Antonio and Hamlet agree. So do you think they're starting to realize it's going to be hard to stick together in one spot? I think maybe. They don't want to accept it though, do they? All right, boys and girls, I'm going to head off and we'll get back together tomorrow to read chapter 13. Have a great day. Bye.